This episode of Why Do People Laugh at Creationists is brought to you by Prager University. Which, spoiler alert, isn't actually a university. And in this video, they're going to try and convince us that the whole universe is fine-tuned by a fine-tuner of some sort.
How is any kind of life possible? The universe is a hostile place. Solar flares, cosmic rays, asteroids flying about. The odds against our existence are truly astronomical.
Yup, almost the entire universe will kill you. It's rather a strange way of trying to convince someone that the universe is so well designed for life that a god must have done it. One tiny scrap of land in the giant vast expanse of the universe. And their conclusion, the universe was clearly designed for life.
Take it from me. I'm an astrophysicist. My job is to look out into space at stars and galaxies, trying to answer these basic, how did the universe come to be questions. Well, those who have a religious faith have an answer. God.
Well, no, not really. God, gods, magic, whatever, doesn't really matter, because critically, it's not a testable hypothesis. I mean, let's just scroll the clock back a few thousand years in Scandinavia and ask ourselves the deep and perplexing question. Where does lightning come from?
Well, those who have a religious faith have an answer. God.
Or what causes the sun to rise?
Those who have a religious faith have an answer. God.
Or why does rain fall from the sky?
God.
Or why does it get cold in winter?
God.
And the reason that this is not a very satisfactory or useful answer is because it's got no predictive capability. You see, this is typically the way that science rolls as a venture. Someone comes up with a cool idea, a hypothesis. That's all it is. It might be right, it might be wrong. It's then put through its paces to see if it holds water. It's tested to see if it actually has predictive capability. Can it predict things that you wouldn't be able to determine otherwise? You know, like can it tell you where your naval shells will land? Or how much slower a clock will run on a satellite due to relativity? Or will it tell you that if you build a special telescope to detect microwaves, it'll see a weird blotchy pattern that your calculations show should be there from the Big Bang? And if it holds ground, it's called a theory. Theories are the useful stuff in science because they, by definition, are the things that accurately describe the universe to the level where they have predictive capability. Now, let's put our creationist hypothesis to the test.
Well, those who have a religious faith have an answer. God.
And it's useless. It has zero predictive capability. You might as well say that thunder comes from Thor. It's just as empty and vapid a hypothesis now as it was then. If you don't understand anything, simple. God did it. Or aliens, whatever, doesn't matter. All you've done is taken something unknown and put a placeholder for the unknown on it. And that contributes precisely zero to your level of understanding.
The Earth's distance from the sun, the size of the atom, and 1,000 other things large and small that allow us to live and to breathe and to think, all seem perfectly tuned for our existence. To many, this design suggests a designer.
What? You were the one at the beginning of this video, merely 30 seconds earlier in your video, saying that the whole universe is out to kill us.
The universe is a hostile place. Solar flares, cosmic rays, asteroids flying about. To many, this design suggests a designer.
That is, it's exactly not designed for life. I mean, how did this drivel get over 1 million hits and then 80-something% approval rating? Oh yeah, that's right, the 41% of America who think that Jesus is coming back in our lifetimes. But remember y'all, it's the blue-haired feminists who are the real threat going to destroy America, because they've totally got loads of videos with over 1 million hits and an 80-something% approval rating. But for the record, you're right, the universe is out to kill us. It's an incredibly hostile place for life. Look, let's just take the Earth as an example. We can only really live on the surface. It's kind of obvious when you think about it, but you know, a few meters up in the air and people just tend to fall to their deaths. Whereas if you get just a few meters below the surface, Well, that's called being buried, and it's also kind of fatal. And for this example, I'm going to say the whole surface. We're not going to waste our time with a mere order of magnitude or so for how much of that Earth's surface is actually habitable. You know, not covered in water or too hot or too cold or whatever. We're just going to say the entire surface of the Earth is habitable. So the surface area of the Earth is about 500 million square kilometers, and the habitable portion of it is basically the top 2 meters, 2/1000ths of a kilometer. So the habitable volume of the Earth is some million cubic kilometers out of the volume of the Earth, which is some trillion cubic kilometers, or about 1/millionth of the Earth is actually inhabitable.
To many, this design suggests a designer.
And that's the best place, the one that was specially designed for life, remember. So let's roll out to the furthest that men have ever been, to the moon. What fraction of the Earth-Moon system is inhabitable by humans? And it's about 1/million trillionth. And hell, whatever, let's go out for the galaxy. What portion of the galaxy is designed for life? And it turns out it's about 1 in 10 to the power of 48. And sure, you might diddle with these numbers by a few orders of magnitude by saying there's lots of inhabitable planets. But on the flip side, the vast majority of the universe is empty space. Remember, we're just looking at the fraction of a galaxy that's inhabitable. Most of the universe is the vast emptiness between the galaxies. Just think about that for a second. That means that if I were to teleport you into our universe, your chances of landing somewhere nice, somewhere where you would live for more than about 30 seconds, is approximately that of buying 10 jackpot-winning lottery tickets in a row. And given that, does it really make any sense to call our universe fine-tuned for life? The vast majority of people randomly teleported into our universe would land in the low-density areas between the galaxies and see nothing but black. Or maybe, if their eyes were good and they were lucky, the odd faint smudge of a distant galaxy. I mean, for comparison, the closest galaxy to us is the Andromeda Galaxy. It's a big, bright galaxy, and we're right on top of it. And on a dark night sky, it's barely equal to a faint star. And if you were lucky enough to land in a galaxy, you would see something like our night sky, with the Milky Way, the galaxy stretching out all around you, and lots of stars, but you would be freakishly lucky to land in a galaxy. So you'll remember your chances of materializing somewhere habitable was about 1 in 10 to the power of 50. Which is kind of cute, because that's often a number that creationists use as so improbable to be 0.
In mathematics, if the chances of something occurring are smaller than 1/10 to the power of 50, we generally say the chances of that event are nil. That is, it will not occur.
That is, your chances of materializing in a habitable place in our universe are, by creationist maths, 0. And that means that the universe was fine-tuned for life. By a god who turns up a couple of thousand years ago in the Middle East, manifested as a burning bush and talked to some goat herders who totally weren't whacked out of their gourds on magic mushrooms or something.
I am here.
Put off thy shoes from off thy feet. I am the God of thy father, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob.
And the God of Susan, and that guy from Human Resources, what's his name? Bert, yes, Bert from Human Resources. So, do you like my new appearance? I was going to go for a burning shrubbery, but I didn't want to overdo things. Sorry, my mind's been elsewhere since creating this perfectly designed universe. So I thought, hey, there's a guy down there grazing his goats.
It's probably not surprising that over 70% of the members of the National Academy of Sciences declare themselves to be atheists. But they have a big problem too. Absent a creator, how do they account for the existence of the universe, of planet Earth, of human consciousness? How do they account for the existence of anything?
Oh no, those poor godless scientists, how can they possibly account for the universe, planet Earth, the Gish Galop, human consciousness and everything?
Have you?
An answer for you? Yes,
There really is one?
there really is one.
To everything? The secret of the universe, the great question of life and everything?
Yes.
How do they account for the existence of the universe, of planet Earth, of human consciousness?
Well, planet Earth isn't a difficult one. It's a rock accreted from the crap left over when the sun formed. Something that, as an astrophysicist,
Take it from me. I'm an astrophysicist.
I would have expected you to have actually known that one. All right, Prager University.
I'm Brian Keating, professor of physics at the University of California, San Diego for Prager University.
Human consciousness. Well, we know certain things about it. It's a function of the brain. We know this because there are a lot of experiments done in war where people get shot in the brain and irreversibly lose consciousness. We also know that it's down to neurochemistry, in that this is what a lot of anesthetics are about, is blocking certain aspects of neurochemistry. And you block certain aspects of the neurochemistry, this, in many cases, leads to loss of consciousness. What else was there? Oh yes, the existence of anything.
How do they account for the existence of the universe, of planet Earth, of human consciousness? How do they account for the existence of anything?
Well, us scientists have an honest way of dealing with the unknown. We say, I don't know. Later, after experiments, you can sometimes replace an I don't know with I do know, but what we don't do when we come up against an unknown, like sort of say, where does thunder come from, is say, I don't know, therefore God creates thunder.
What were you the god of again?
Well, it turns out they have an answer, and it's become all the rage in scientific circles. It's called the multiverse.
All the rage! Dude, I'm not sure what scientific circles you hang out in, but no, it isn't. It's a hypothesis.
Let me explain. 13.8 billion years ago, there was a Big Bang. From something unimaginably small, we don't know exactly what, the universe exploded into existence. How did it happen? Why did it happen? It doesn't matter, because it happened.
Now, from the dismissive tone of all of this, you might be thinking that this guy is a real hardcore creationist, just dismissing this big, silly Big Bang theory. But if you check the guy out, he's actually done some real science on all of things the cosmic microwave background.
But to see the Big Bang requires a different method. The oldest light we can study is called the cosmic microwave background, the leftover heat from when the universe was a mere 380,000 years old.
And he wrote a book on losing the Nobel Prize? Really? A book on losing the Nobel Prize? Now you might think at this point, whoa, this guy's kind of full of himself. What's he going to be doing next? Comparing himself to Galileo?
Soon after our announcement, rumors began to spread that Bicep had been mistaken. Had we seen the birth of the universe? Or had we, like Galileo before, been fooled?
Sure, dude, you're just like Galileo. Well, turns out his story is he spent about 10 years measuring an aspect of the cosmic microwave background. You know, the one that he now treats with such disdain.
The universe exploded into existence. How did it happen? Why did it happen? It doesn't matter, because it happened.
Well, they thought they'd measured the polarization of the cosmic microwave background, a rather specific aspect of it.
In 2014, the Bicep 2 team shocked the world, claiming that we'd witnessed the spark that ignited the Big Bang. The world erupted in applause, and whispers of Nobel Prizes as well.
Which everyone at the time thought was really cool. But it turns out they kind of screwed up, and all they'd really done was measured some dust in our galaxy. Meaning that not only was our hero here not going to win a Nobel Prize.
From the time I became an astronomer, I dreamed of winning the Nobel Prize. Yet now, 25 years after becoming a professional astronomer, I've come to see how humanity's superlative award actually impedes scientific progress.
It also meant he had wasted 10 years of his life. But hey, dude, maybe it's just God's got a twisted sense of humor. Now, normally I'd have some sympathy for a guy like this, but sorry for me, the guy burned all of his pity points when he decided to prostitute himself for Prager, not actually a university, pimping disinformation for the religious right.
Each with their own unique properties. In other words, new universes are spawned, and not just a handful, an infinite number of them. Some of these universes would be too cold for life and some too hot. But with an infinite number, surely one is bound to get it just right.
Sweet Jesus, did he really say that some of the universes will be too hot for life or too cold for life? Dude, that's the universe we currently live in. Here, I made an infographic for you showing how much of the universe is too cold for life and too hot for life. And if you're wondering why there isn't anything on there for too hot for life, it's because almost none of the universe is too hot for life. Remember our random transport coordinates from earlier, where all you could see is black or mostly black, no nearby stars. That means no heat. You have to be almost on top of a star before it's not too cold for life anymore, and then it very quickly gets too hot for life. I mean, hell, even on planet Earth, which is really just in the right place, large portions of it are too hot and too cold for us to live. Because, it's all fine-tuned for life.
But with an infinite number, surely one is bound to get it just right.
Dude, if you're randomly teleported into a universe and have a mathematically zero chance of surviving, calling it a universe that gets it just right for life is kinda a stretch. Look, the multiverse thing is exactly what it says on the box. It's a hypothesis.
Because there are so many universes, it's very likely, according to the multiverse scenario, that everything that could possibly happen does happen in one universe or another. That girlfriend who broke up with you, you're married to her in another universe. Does this sound a bit far-fetched, a little too science fiction-y?
But given what we know about the universe from things like quantum mechanics and relativity, clocks on satellites run at different speeds to those on Earth. Yeah, doesn't it sound a bit science fiction-y? Yeah, it's also an accurate description of the universe we live in. And from this sort of mathematics, you get this sort of hypothesis. But yeah, that's all it is at the moment, a hypothesis. But even if it wasn't, even if it was conclusively demonstrated, I still really wouldn't care that much, because I know the sort of mathematics that you need to deal with the Big Bang involves the very small, the quantum, and the very fast, relativity, the union of two deeply non-intuitive concepts. What it would all mean really wouldn't make that much sense, to the point where even if you were to sit me down with the answer and walk me through it, I know from how much I've struggled with the mathematics of quantum mechanics and relativity that even if you told me the answer, I still wouldn't understand it. And just to be clear, if I wouldn't have a decent chance of understanding it, the sort of audience that would need something like the inflation of the Big Bang dumped down to the level of opening a can of soda definitely wouldn't understand it.
Immediately after the Big Bang, the universe underwent a rapid expansion. Think of a gush of bubbles exploding from a seriously shaken soda can just after it's popped open. In short, you and I are just an accident that, given enough universes, was inevitable. But wait, there's more. Because there are so many universes, it's very likely, according to the multiverse scenario, that everything that could possibly happen does happen in one universe or another.
I know what Brian's bitter about here. In one of those universes, he didn't waste 10 years of his life and actually won a Nobel Prize and wrote a book called Winning the Nobel Prize to the Adulation of the Crowd. Tell me I'm wrong, Brian. Tell me I'm wrong, because he can sure as hell feel your resentment all the way over there in Cowboy Universe.
For multiverse believers, this is literally true. The same scientists who reject God's existence due to the lack of evidence pin their hopes on a theory so all-inclusive and vague, it could never be refuted.
Dude, they don't believe it. It's a hypothesis. They're not grasping at straws here. This is how science works. Someone comes up with a neat idea and then they test it to see if it holds water. And to end with, he comes out with some pretentious quotes to make it sound like he's got some authority on this or something.
All likelihood will never be proven. How does that sound to you? Probably the same way it sounds to the distinguished physicist Paul Davies. The multiverse theory may be dressed up in scientific language, but in essence, it requires the same leap of faith. Or, as G.K. Chesterton quipped, when men stop believing in God, they don't believe in nothing. They believe in anything.
But hey, here's another quote for you. A witty saying proves nothing. All you've done here is show that G.K. Chesterton was an idiot. I mean, just how, pray tell, do you make the logical leap from, if you don't believe in God, to you will believe in anything? Hell, he doesn't even specify which God. Ra, Poseidon, the burning bush and the goat herders, a Thor, he's pretty popular these days. Which of the thousands of gods that men have worshipped are you talking about? I mean, hell, G.K. Chesterton here might as well have said, when men stop believing in Santa, they will believe in anything. It would have logically made just as much sense.
The same scientists who reject God's existence due to the lack of evidence pin their hopes on a theory so...
Dude, it's not a theory. If it was a theory, we wouldn't be having this conversation because it would have already been demonstrated.
But those who believe in the multiverse are also keeping the faith. They just don't admit it.
And all you're doing is pretending that people treat a hypothesis like a belief in religion. And that's not how science rolls. If it's debunked, it's debunked. Religion? Even if it's debunked, you still believe in it, because that's what faith is.
Those who believe God created the universe are intellectually honest enough to admit that they do so on the basis of faith.
Well, that's fine, but if I'm going to believe in something on faith where there is no evidence, I'm going to believe in a God that looks cool, not a God that looks like this. And if you enjoyed that, give this video a thumbs up. And if you really enjoyed it, subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell, because it's the only certain way that these videos will turn up in your feed. And if you really enjoyed this channel and want to support it directly, I'll leave the links for Patreon below.